Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it's time for another daily dose of Dismal Disney.
We're going to have probably lots of doses of Dismal Disney because the investor calls today. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a dismal time indeed. We're going to talk about Disney's DEI content inclusion standards that has been, I don't know why everybody thinks it's new, supposedly been leaked. They've actually been out there before, but Elon Musk tweeted it yesterday. So now this is new news to a lot of people who missed the memo 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, we're going to talk about this because this explains a lot of the really dumb decisions that they make in shows and why they race swap, gender swap for seemingly no reason, even though it doesn't make sense, especially on historical dramas. It's because they have these guidelines that they have to meet.
Yes.
So Geeky is going to run this one. She's been looking into this a little bit more. She's done articles on it.
Well, when I saw it, I was like, I know I've seen this before because I have.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, this isn't new news. It's just it's resurfacing now because of Elon Musk putting it out there. He was shocked, like, dude.
We was also surprised that Twitter didn't have that. A lot of people on Twitter weren't real.
Yeah,
I was like,
after he paid for it,
he promised to pay for it. How do you not know this? Anyway,
everybody knows Twitter's fake, dude.
But before we get into it any further,
please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, get woohoo.
Woohoo.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. I think the first time we heard about it was with ABC.
Yeah, back in like 2020. Okay, this tied into back then too. We heard about the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences making the categories that you had to have so much of this DEI stuff to be able to be, nominated. And we talked about that. I know we talked about this back then. I saw this. I'm like, I know we've seen this before because we have. So this post came out yesterday. Like Elon Musk put up on Twitter. I want to say yesterday. And he was saying about that someone anonymous sent him this, and it's talking about different representation, like on-screen representation. Characters have to be 50% or more regular recurring written characters come from underrepresented groups. Actors 50% or more regular and recurring characters from underrepresented groups, et cetera, et cetera. And it goes down the way for like leadership and below the line, and that you have to have so much representation. It's like half of your people you hire, whether qualified or not, have to be from underrepresented groups. Which is, I think, part of the problems they're having. So He posted this, but this is not new because I know we talked about it before. I knew I'd seen it before. ABC had put this out. It came from ABC back in 2020, I believe. 2020. This came out from ABC. So what I think this all comes from is on September 8th, 2020, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences announced new representation and inclusion standards to be eligible for Best Picture category at the Academy Awards. And then after that, it went out to a bunch of streamers and different studios all started doing these different DEI mandates. And that's where this came from. When ABC put out, they actually said, hey, they were going to do this for sustained change, and our new guidelines are intended to make our content and our sets as inclusive as possible. Yeah. All right. But it's funny to me, and our friend Sarah pointed out to me about this, was if you read the bottom of the actual image, I got here to do it, it says, anyone involved in hiring decisions is prohibited from asking candidates and talent about their actual or perceived race, religion, color, sexual orientation, gender identity, any of this stuff. So you're not allowed to discriminate. You have to make sure 50% of people meet these criteria, but you're not allowed to ask them if they do. So
you just have to guess.
But I could just say I do.
Yeah, you could just say.
And then they have to take me at my word. You're not allowed to question it. So I could just say, hey, I'm non-binary, or hey, I might look like a woman, but I'm actually a man.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's like, you could just say that, but they wouldn't be able to question you. They weren't allowed to, according to this. So I'm like, what was the point of any of it if they're not allowed to question it in the first place?
Yeah, I know, right?
What kind of defeats the purpose, in my opinion. So this was not new. This was already out. ABC had talked about it. They were talking about this back then. They have there it is right there. There's the graphic.
Yeah.
So this is not new. I knew I'd seen it before. So that was that. And that all came about after the Academy did what they were doing. Right?
So they all kind of got together and decided whoever the decision makers are. Some people are going to say, well, it has to do with ESG money or whatever it is. But they all got together and said this is what we're going to do to fix things.
Because it was trending, and everybody wanted, you had to do this because of diversity inclusion to get your, weren't there like things you get, like grants and stuff like that you get credit for, I think.
Yeah, you would get
stuff
like film credits and grant money, and
you could get stuff like that too by being DEI,
It's like, I hope it was worth it. All the money that you lost at the box office or in ad revenue on TV shows or whatever, I hope you got that back in grant money. Because a lot of these decisions, I think, chased off talented people.
Well, they passed on talented people because we talked about this. I know we did a video on this.
Yeah.
April of 2021, Dana Walden, the Walt Disney Television chairman of entertainment, on a panel that was April 9th, 2021 at Chapman University in Glamorous panel, she said that they had pilots that were really good that they passed on. I will tell you, for the first time, we received some incredibly well-written scripts that did not satisfy our standards in terms of inclusion. So we passed on them. And then she said that the one example they got was centered on a white family with the assumption that diversity would come from the neighbors. Pass, she said. That's not going to get on the air anymore because that's not what our audience wants.
Well, no. That's not that. Yeah.
That's not a reflection of our audience. How did the race swapped Wonder Years go? Oh, right. They canceled it.
It's so weird because I remember a time when everybody pretty much watched everything. Mm-hmm. And again, I want to point out in the 80s and 90s, some of the biggest shows on TV, even the 70s, some of the biggest shows on TV were, all black casts or mostly black casts.
And no one thought anything of it.
Everybody watched The Cosby Show. Everybody watched Fresh Prince. Everybody watched The Jeffersons.
I remember in the 90s, like especially like in the 90s and 80s and 90s, like there would always be, there'd be movies that would be led by black actors or different, different races of actors. And everybody went, like Jackie Chan movies were popular. Everybody went to see the, Denzel Washington, Wesley Snipes, Will Smith, everything else. Like you always would go see those movies. Like, oh my God, did you see the new Denzel Washington? Did you see the new Wesley Snipes movie? Holy shit, I gotta see that. You didn't think to yourself, oh, I gotta go because they're black. It's like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, I know. It's like, look, this is the problem. You have to, put a good show on the air. If it happens to be diverse, fantastic. But the thing is, audiences will flock toward a good show. When you force it and you force these mandates, you're also cutting into creativity too, because you're saying, well, the show we can't greenlight something unless we have this formula, this mathematical formula for creativity. I'm like, that's really freaking stupid. And a lot of people just said, yeah, it's a good time to retire. You had a lot of people that worked in Hollywood for years. They're like, yeah, this is like overcorrection, massive overcorrection.
Well, I was thinking even toys, like when I was a kid, like gem dolls. They had gem dolls that were Hispanic, that were Asian, that were black, that were, they like, I was thinking Barbies. They had Barbie dolls. They literally would make they'd have different ethnicity Barbies, and like they would release this like a doll in different versions so that if you could choose what you wanted. Like nobody thought anything of it. Like, oh, cool. I remember asking specifically for dolls that weren't white because that didn't look like me, because I wanted, dolls that I could play with that didn't look like me, because I didn't think anything of it. God, it's so fucking stupid. I'm just tired of it.
But then it's so weird that the person in charge of all this is a white woman.
Well, she was. I don't think she's there now.
Oh, okay.
But you want me
she
to bring...
didn't meet her own quota?
I think she got gone because she was Iger's person.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, here's this one. You want me to bring this up?
Yeah, this is Grums. We actually interviewed him on the D-Res podcast. He worked on World of Warcraft for a while, and he talks about AAA games. He said the same thing's going on there. Like, why are you shocked?
It's going on across the board. Like, this is what they're all doing.
This is why entertainment sucks, because it's all being done by committee and by mandate instead of by what's good. And again, you can have a good show written by, starring anyone, but as a creative, you look at this and it's like, well, this is what you got to do to get your show through the eye of it's hard enough to get a show picked up, but to get through the eye of a needle, you got to do this and this and this. So you're going to make some decisions that don't make any damn sense or seem really forced or ham-fisted.
Well, like this person said too, they're forcing white developers to apologize for their privilege in different sessions and stuff. We've seen this with some of the things that Coke was trying to do.
Oh yeah.
And then Disney was trying to do.
And
I'm like, just because you're white doesn't mean you're privileged.
This is how you find and retain the best talent possible. You make them feel incredibly guilty for existing. Well, I mean,
that's not saying that people that aren't diverse aren't talented.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you have people that are very, very good at what they do and they happen to be a white dude, making them go through a struggle session? Like, really? Like, do you think they're going to stay, or are they going to jump ship the first chance they get?
Every month it changes about who's more oppressed than whom. Like, it used to be if you were, black and male, you were oppressed, but now you're still male, so you're not as oppressed as somebody else. And it's like, it's so ridiculous. I can't even keep track. It changes weekly. But there's this mandate. They started doing these mandates, I think, in 2020, 2019, and I think it's across the board. But I think that it's bit them in the ass. Mm-hmm. That's why we had the race swap Little Mermaid. If it broke even, it was just barely. I don't think it made much money at all.
Yeah, and it's just, that was just subpar product, right? But again, you can see behind the curtain. You're looking behind the curtain. You're like, this is how Disney makes their decisions. And again, it's not like, what is the audience actually going to like? What is actually going to make us money? It's like, does it fit these mandates?
Is that why we have all these, race swapped and gender swapped Marvel characters that are basically the same?
Oh, I guarantee
it's the hero, but now it's Riri Williams instead of, Tony Stark. And, and we see it across the board. We keep seeing it. They keep doubling, tripling down on it. And then you have like that video going around. Now, I think it was just pink. It was parts of clips. You don't know the context, what they're saying it in. So I can't really say that's what they meant. But they're also saying that they're being told not to read the books. Like being told don't read the comics, just make it up. Yeah. And it's like, because you have to make it up to these new characters and all this other shit.
But look at the core Avengers. They were the original Avengers. They were all white dudes and one woman.
I know, but so that's bad.
That's it. That's why they replaced them all.
But they changed them, and what happens when they keep changing them and keep trying to push Captain Marvel and stuff? It's not performing at the box office. Nope. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I guess. I didn't watch it, but apparently it tried to go into that whole, lecture people territory. Did not do well. She-Hulk. I did not do that well. And that's one of the people I had saying that she didn't read the comics. But I found that odd because I know that in other interviews she had like recently become, or at least like sometime in the last like 10 years, a Marvel person. So I don't know what context that was taken out of. But I'm just saying, they keep doubling down on these people. And a lot of times people they're picking because they have to meet these mandates of, you have to look this way and identify this way and all this stuff to be hired, don't have the qualifications and the experience to be put in charge of a show or movie of these levels. And then it doesn't do well. And then they're like, it's because people are bigots. It's because, no, they weren't qualified and you weren't really setting them up for success. But then you could have found people that also maybe had those had better qualifications identified in those ways, but probably didn't want to work for Disney for whatever reason, or whatever reason you didn't go after them. Maybe they were a male that didn't happen to be white, But I'm just saying, you had people that you probably could have used that would have done a better job. These people did not have the qualifications, and it showed.
Let's look at some of these inclusion standards here. Let's blow this up and read some of these off here. For those of you who are not familiar, standard A is on-screen representation. You have to have at least 3 of the 5 areas. So basically, like if you meet 3,
I know we read this before in another video.
Yeah, I know we did. I know it's been a lot. It's been like 2 years though.
Oh, it's been more than that. 2020.
Oh my god. So yeah, we have A1 characters, 50% or more of regular and recurring, and they put that in bold. So it can't be like your best friend that shows up a couple episodes a season. It's got to be like regular and recurring written characters come from underrepresented groups. And then you have to define what's an underrepresented group. Basically, anyone not straight and white and male. A2 actors, 50% or more of regular and recurring actors from underrepresented group. Secondary characters, meaningful inclusion of underrepresented group as secondary or more minor on-screen individuals, including background actors.
That's why you're seeing all these historical dramas that everybody's now race swapped for no reason.
Yeah, it's like that doesn't make sense. You're in the 1700s in the UK. It's not 50% ethnic. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like I okay. A4 series premise: meaningful integration of underrepresented groups in overall theme and narrative. Episodic storytelling, ongoing meaningful integration of underrepresented group in episodic themes and narratives. So you can't even be like, okay, well, my friend's black. Now we got to make the whole thing like it's got to be like about his experience or, my trans daughter's experience, or you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's when it takes you out. Like, you can tell the difference between something that like Norman Lear did back in the 70s and 80s, where he had a deft hand. Star Trek Next Generation, they had a deft hand. Some of the stuff was kind of preachy, but it wasn't as in your face. Now, to hit these mandates, they're like, we're going to stop, and for the next 5 minutes, we're going to talk about my lived experience as a
and then we have to hit over your
trans
head
person or something. You
You
know,
have to make it very obvious that
Yes.
you're hitting these standards so that
Yes.
everybody knows you're hitting the standards.
if it feels like a PSA, if it feels like edutainment, that's because it probably is. This is why they stop cartoon shows and they go on about being non-binary in the middle of an episode. You know, and now we return you to your regularly scheduled
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, yeah.
Standard B, creative leadership. At least 3 of the 6 are needed to be met to fulfill Standard B. 50% or more producer or above on writing staff, and 50% or more co-producer and below on writing staff come from underrepresented groups.
Yes.
So 50% or more of episodic directors from underrepresented groups. Casting directors is from an underrepresented group or has not previously worked on a DGE show in this role. What? You haven't worked here before, so... meaningful representation of underrepresented groups in senior creative leadership. Promotion of a member of an underrepresented group into a role that constitutes career progression for at least one member of the writing staff. So you might not have earned the progression, but you're supposed to get it because you need career progression because you're not white, straight, and male.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of people, and this is not just Disney, the other companies too. And we're like, where did this person come from? How did they wind up on this show? How did they wind up as a showrunner on this show when their career trajectory does not make any damn sense? How did they go from being an obscure Tumblr cartoonist to a showrunner on a multi-million-dollar reboot of a beloved franchise in like 3 years' time? They happened to meet all this criteria and they were there.
Yeah, and then
Then they're saying
the 50% or more of this, and then it says you have to show a year-over-year increase. To what? It becomes more than 50%?
Yeah.
And then standard C below the line. They never specify what underrepresented groups are, by the way. 50% or more of line producers.
We know what they are.
Yeah, and production department, and so on. Key roles, 50% more overall crew, promotion of members of underrepresented groups into a role that constitutes career progression for at least one person.
Yeah.
Hire line producer or production department head who has not been previously employed in that role. And same with the industry access career development. Same thing. 3 of the 6. You get the idea. I'm not reading all of these. I'm sorry, Neon.
Well, no, it's okay. I'm just like, you get the idea that basically it is definitely disproportionate even to the real world. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're doing so by that logic, I mean, you're gonna see shows that maybe have a 100% homogenous like ethnic cast or something, because that would be considered diversity. But you're not going to see any more sitcoms that have a white family unless it's like a blended family or something. And
because it's okay if it's another group. That it only ever works one direction. But anyway, this isn't new. The point I'm trying to make is this isn't new. They've been doing it. We've brought up other videos, multiple examples of it. It's just coming to light now. I don't know how much of this is staying this way though, because we've seen Disney lately walk back stuff with Daredevil Born Again and stuff. But then the flip side isn't there a rumor now Blade's going to be about his daughter?
Yeah, that makes no damn sense.
And then we have other instances where they're tripling down on the same thing moving forward at Disney, like the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie is going to be with a black woman instead of.
Well, yeah, I have that pulled up actually.
Oh, do you?
Yep.
Oh yeah, she was going to be in Thunderbolt. We know what's probably going on. She was going to be in Thunderbolts. They probably had a contract. They have to give her something.
Yeah, weirdly, now you talk about walking it back. Thunderbolts, they've recast some of the characters and they recast them to look more like their comic book counterparts.
And then Daredevil Born Again, they weren't going to bring back, Foggy Nelson and Karen Page, and people were mad about it. Now they are.
Well, even looking at over at Warner Brothers, now I don't know what their DEI stuff is like or whatever, but look at Superman. Look at the casting for James Gunn's Superman movie. It's 1-to-1 with the comic book.
Yeah, because they're trying to walk it back because they know it hasn't worked. So like I said, I don't know how much this is still in play because this is a lot of it from 2020, 2021. But Disney's gonna hold on to it kicking and screaming because they just love to lose money apparently. And look, again, I want to make it very clear. This is in no way saying that if somebody is diverse, they're not going to be qualified to direct it's not going to be a good show. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is they've had people that were diverse for years, working on this stuff. They've had people that were diverse for years, movies and shows that were led by diverse groups for years that were great. It's just been in recent year where they've tried to make it more about, explaining to you how you're a bigot and that, that knowing your place, than it is about having a good show. And I think that has bit them in the ass. And it's also unfair to the diverse people that are, behind the scenes of the show or in the show starring. It's very unfair to them as well because they're not actually able to perform. They're just being judged the whole time. But it's by Disney's own behavior and Hollywood's own behavior that put them in that position. I also think there's a lot of people who really weren't qualified to be leading Marvel shows or Star Wars movies or whatever. But they're getting in there and they're getting bumped to the front of the line because of DEI things. Meanwhile, I think if you look, you can find people that definitely meet the qualifications and actually have the experience. But you're passing them over because they don't have as many check boxes as this person does, even though they don't have the experience to do it.
Well, yeah, look at what happened with the Marvels. Was it Nia DaCosta was her name?
Yeah.
And they threw her under the wheels of the
Rey
bus.
movie's coming. We know that's going to probably
yeah, like...
So...
I mean, is it possible to make a good Rey movie? Yeah. Do I think it's going to be...
not now. It would have been done from the get-go.
But, like, you got to pick the right people. Put the right people in charge of stuff. And that, again, that doesn't mean that they're not diverse, but if you're looking at that first, if you're looking at the color of their skin or who they're sleeping with as that is a determining factor. Like, oh, cool, you're a black lesbian. Okay, well... you can't direct. That's okay. We'll work on that later, but we'll bring you in because you meet the. You know what I'm saying?
But there might be somebody else who's also a black lesbian but has the experience, but they don't like them for some other reason, or they don't. They don't like. They don't work for Disney, which I can't say I blame them.
You voted for Trump.
That's maybe it. Maybe they're Republican. Who knows?
Yeah. How dare you? You're not diverse.
It's only white straight men that are Republican and the cause of everything wrong in the world.
You're white MAGA presenting. Even though
presenting.
You're MAGA presenting. So
that's what they're gonna call us because we are Republican. I don't even like Trump that much. I'm sorry, I don't. I mean, I think he's a better choice than other people, but I don't like. He's not like my first choice. And they're like, "You're MAGA presenting."
MAGA presenting.
I'm not even a Republican. Dumbass.
Oh my God.
So
anyway, so there we go, guys. Shocked that Elon Musk is shocked, but again, if you're not paying super close attention to this stuff, it's and most normal people aren't. They're not, but it's been out there for a couple of years now. So we're gonna wrap it up.
Yes.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.
Bye.